Welcome to Hindsight, the podcast where I talk about memories and games and stuff. Today, we're going to talk about the one, the only, Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing, the original game, released on the GameCube and the Nintendo 64. The Japanese version released for the Nintendo 64 originally as Animal Forest very late in the Nintendo 64's life cycle. But the GameCube version for Western audiences released in about 2002 for the Nintendo GameCube. Of course, the series sailed to outrageous popularity recently with the release of New Horizons on the Nintendo Switch. Having previously been a somewhat niche casual gaming title for gamers in the West, the title, the original one, came packaged with a specialty GameCube memory card, which could hold exactly 52 blocks of data. Nintendo decided to call the storage capacity of the GameCube memory card's blocks for some reason. The block system carried over to the Wii and I believe the DS and the 3DS as well, and they just retired it back to using, normalized storage units for the Switch now. But this memory card could hold exactly enough data to hold an Animal Crossing town and resident save data. The important part of this is that you can't really play Animal Crossing without a memory card. The game, if I understand correctly, reads the data from the memory card and builds your town from that. So, if you were to start the game without a memory card in, it might not let you do anything. At the very least, it would prompt you to create a new town, because the towns are randomly designed and generated and then saved to a memory card which it loads from. So when you first start up the game without town data, obviously, you will get a unique loading screen featuring the musician KK Slider, who informs you that you are on your way to a new town and on a new life adventure. You then, the screen goes black and you wake up on this train car and you meet another character named Rover. Rover walks you through some questions and becomes exceedingly concerned for your well-being, as he realizes you really had to think pretty hard about your name, and you didn't know really what town you were going to when you did not have a housing situation set up for when you get there. So he actually sets you up with someone for when you get to town, whatever you decided to name said town. Typically, I go with something like cheese. And when you get to town, you say goodbye to Rover. The train drives off, and you meet your realtor, Tom Nook. Tom Nook, the Tanuki, will take you to the center of town and help you pick out one of 4 houses. the 4 being indicative of the 4 different player characters you can have in a given town. Once you fill all 4 houses, you won't be able to have any more characters in town unless you remove one of the characters and delete them from the save file. Once you pick one of these houses, Tom Nook will ask for 10,000 bells to pay for the house, which is fairly cheap considering some of the items in the game. You are only holding 1,000 bells, so you give him the 1,000 bells that you have, and he agrees to give you a very generous 0% loan for the rest of the house, and you can come and work for him at his little shop, Nook's Cranny, to pay off the rest of the loan. You go over to Nook's Cranny and you work for Nook for a little bit and go through some tutorial-esque tasks like planting flowers, meeting the townsfolk, writing obscenities on the town bulletin board. After you're finished with all of these things, you are free to repay your loan in whatever way you want. There are many ways to acquire vast sums of money in Animal Crossing, ranging from fishing for exotic and rare species of fish to force-feeding an island dweller who pays you generously with lump sums of upwards to 30,000 bells for each coconut you force upon him. However you choose to play the game, you shouldn't have any difficulty paying off your home loan. After paying off the loan, Tom Nook offers you the choice of expanding your home for an additional amount. You can put on another 0% interest loan, which you can pay off in the same way as the initial loan. You can, of course, I believe, refuse to expand your home and just remain debt-free, but then you won't have any room in your house for all the couches you'll shake free from various trees around town. There's quite a large cast of animal residents in the game, and the cast gets larger with each successive title in the series. As of New Horizons, I believe there's over 300 different animal villagers who can come and move into your little town, or I suppose in New Horizons it would be your little island. And each of them have a very, very unique personality, speaking behavior, and their own home themes. And, of course, their character design as well. There's a lot that I could probably add here for things like how animals interact based on their personality traits, what their favorite styles of clothing are, or like all of the different types of animals, the species that you can have in town, like the elephants and the octopi, and the wolves and the dogs and the cats, and I could go on, but I won't because I have a few different, more important topics to talk about. If you are a fan of the Animal Crossing series, I'm sure that you already have some favorite villagers, so I probably don't need to really talk about them anyway. As you become accustomed with your town through your little tasks given by Tom Nook, you'll become acquainted with the other characters in town. These characters are all static across every town. They will be somewhere in every single town. The first, set of characters is the postal workers. Pelly is the daytime desk worker. She has a grumpy nighttime counterpart, whose name I don't remember, but she is she's very helpful. There's also the mailman himself. You can come across, like, if you, I believe if you max out the amount of letters you can mail at once, then you can leave the post office and you can find him walking around delivering the letters. But for the most part, you won't really run across him. If you have forgotten to save in your last play session, you will have the wonderful pleasure of meeting the lovely and not-so-friendly character Rossetti. Rossetti, given his title and his name, does not like when characters, players specifically, do not save their game before they turn off the console. He will thoroughly ream you out for forgetting such an important part of the game and remind you that you will lose all progress if you forget to save. Some other characters we come across are Mayor Tortimer, who always seems snarkily overjoyed to see you around town on holidays. I believe you can find him in the town hall as well most times, sitting around taking care of his mayorly duties. And you can also collect some special gifts from him on key holidays like Christmas or Halloween, things like that. He'll be walking around town. I believe there's like a wishing fountain that he'll actually be like stationed at, and you can find him there for some gifts. You'll also meet Blathers the owl, who runs the museum. You can donate all of the various fish and bugs you catch to the museum, as well as any fossils you dig up around town. There are two other sets of characters you'll see in any town you create. The police dogs, Copper and Booker, who mostly gather up lost and found items you can claim that you lost, even if you didn't. And there are the two seamstress foxes, Mabel and Sable, who run the clothing store, the Able Sisters. Lastly, you'll run across an important character at some point during your Animal Crossing journey. This is the Kappa named Cap'n, who will give you a ride to the island on his boat. You can interact with an island dweller character while you're on the island, steal their spare shirts, and manipulate them for money if you have the Game Boy Advance link cable. Every Friday night, you will get an additional chance to run into a familiar face, KK Slider, who shows up at the train station. He will play songs for you, which you can put in a stereo in your house to add ambiance. You can also ride the train to other towns if you have a second memory card inserted that has Animal Crossing town data. You can meet up with Rover on the train ride over. Does he, live on the train, or Another character you can meet on the train is named Blanca. Blanca is a cat with no face. You are able to interact with Blanca and literally draw her a face using the design tools the game has for the clothing design feature. After helping design Blanca's face, she'll wander your town for a while, sporting her fresh looks. Personally, I played this title with 3 other siblings, so we often ended up hiding pitfalls around the shops and houses to prank each other. It was always a contest to see who could catch all of the rare fishes and bugs during rainstorms and such. Those were all fun memories, which thankfully aged pretty well with future installments. Even New Horizons, which allows, more like forces everyone on the console to coexist in the same town or island. The music in the original Animal Crossing game was second to none. The future titles didn't really seem to carry the same charm as the first, which had the first game on the GameCube had separate music pieces for each hour of the day, and none of them ever got boring in any way. All of them fit the mood of that hour perfectly, and you would often start up the game just to vibe to the soundtrack. Back in the days before it was all readily available on the internet. Decorating your home is one of the more entertaining aspects of the game, in my opinion. The vast number of options at your disposal are just incredible to me. Like, if you thought 300 villagers was a lot, just wait until you find out how many furniture pieces there are. One of the most interesting pieces of furniture you could get in this specific Animal Crossing title was the NES games, which are exactly what they sound like. Complete playable copies of Nintendo Entertainment System games such as Clue Clue Land or Excite Bike. These were a really cool aspect of the game and added something to the experience that the games have been missing since the first one. Another thing, I guess, I just remembered now, it's not actually in my script, but the game had e-reader accessibility. So if you had the e-reader Game Boy Advance attachment, you could use that to scan cards and get gifts because of those. You could also enter codes to Tom Nook's shop and get gifts. I believe a couple of the NES games were gifts from these codes as well. Nintendo released some of these in a few different kinds of ways, but I believe Nintendo Power was one of the more accessible options for getting these codes. When you pay off all of your home loans, Tom Nook rewards you by erecting a statue in your honor up by the train station. So, from your second floor, you can look out at your gilded visage and claim your superiority over the simple animals who inhabit your domain. Your neighbors. However, you decide to play Animal Crossing, I think you'll find something to enjoy, if not 2 or 3 things. The characters, music, and gameplay are all charming. It's a wonderful casual experience, and getting letters from your mom is just so cute and nice every time that it happens. She'll send you letters on your birthday, on different times, like I think like the anniversary of your town's creation, things like that, along with a couple different holidays throughout the year, like Mother's Day. She'll send you a letter then as well. That is about all I've got for Animal Crossing, though, without getting into the 300 different villagers in the game. Join me next week. We're going to be talking about Mega Man and one of his many, many adventures. Until then, take it easy, but not too easy, and don't do anything I wouldn't do.